With the start of the new year and the launch of new video game home consoles comes plenty of new ways to play video games. But while the new generation is barely taking off, the old generation still has plenty of life left in it. So that begs the question, which system is worth buying for you? Well, let's take a look into that. Welcome to my PlayStation Buyer's Guide for the year 2021. Hardware. Let's get the ball rolling here. As of the making of this video, there are currently 4 PlayStation systems you can select from. The base PlayStation 4, which retails for $299 US. The PlayStation 4 Pro system at $399 US. The PlayStation 5 Digital Edition at the same MSRP. And the PlayStation 5 with the 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray drive, which comes in at $499 US. Now, right off the bat, while the PlayStation 4, the base unit, is still a very affordable option at that aforementioned $299 price point, the fact of the matter is it is the lowest tier PlayStation you can currently play video games on. And while it has been around for over 7 years, it still has plenty of life left in it, but given where we're at in the landscape of video gaming, it's not the one that I would recommend. The PlayStation 4 Pro, if you can get it new at a discount or even used at a wonderful price, I would highly recommend you pick that one up, as it can play the same PS4 games that the base unit does, but in higher resolution, with better in-game graphics, and potentially faster load times. There are plenty of advantages to owning PlayStation 4 Pro over the base PS4 unit. And for the course of this video, I will not be diving deep into the specs and information related to the base PS4 unit, as it's been around for over 7 years and there are plenty of videos that cover it. The other 2 options available are the PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 5 Digital Edition. Now, those 2 boxes are almost identical in every category except for one, the 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray drive. Now, if you are like me and you are still a collector of physical media, you like to buy maybe all of your games on disc, then the PlayStation 5 is really the way you might want to look into this, as the PlayStation 5 Digital Edition currently doesn't offer any way for you to transition physical-based media over to the PlayStation 5 Digital Edition via the PlayStation Store or the PlayStation Network. And while we're talking about next-generation hardware, I would just like to mention this one thing before we even keep going at the video at this point, and that is, as tempting as it might be, as badly as you may want one of these next generation systems, do not ever buy a brand new home console from any kind of scalper or reseller online or in person. Always buy brand new and frankly expensive hardware from legitimate retailer online shops and or authorized Sony Interactive Entertainment retailers for the PlayStation 5. So, something to keep in mind before proceeding. Here in the US, and I can only speak on behalf of us, there really aren't that many accessories for you to select from, at least first party wise. There are plenty of DualShock 4s of varying colors, and you have the options to pick between the PlayStation Wireless Gold or the Platinum headsets, but beyond that, there really isn't much to select from. Sony did briefly release the official vertical stand for the PlayStation 4 and PS4 Pro systems, but that came and went within a season. It felt like they weren't around for very long, and trying to find one, at least in a retail shop, is very difficult. You'll probably have to resort to Amazon or eBay in order to pick one of those up. But when it comes to accessories, especially maybe gaming headsets, you might be asking yourself, well, which one should I get? And regardless of whether or not you're planning to pick up a PlayStation 4 or a PlayStation 5, there is one recommendation I would select over all of them for one reason, and that is pure functionality and as well as longevity. And that is the Pulse Elite 3D headsets that, while are advertised as being compatible with the PlayStation 5, work just fine with PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 4 Pro. The reason I would select and personally recommend the Pulse 3D headsets is not because they're the newest ones, but because they can take advantage of the Tempest and 3D audio capabilities that not only the PlayStation 5 offers, but many of the 3D audio effects that certain PlayStation 4 titles offer as well. And think about it like this. Even if you're looking to buy a PlayStation 4 now, at some point you may be interested in a PS5. Why buy 2 headsets knowing that maybe in the future you're just going to end up buying another system anyway? Buy one headset that is more forward-thinking and works across all platforms and takes advantage of both. Another reason I would personally recommend the Pulse 3D headphones over the other 2 is frankly compatibility with PlayStation VR. while the gold headsets work just fine and were actually designed to accommodate PlayStation VR users, in my personal opinion, the Pulse 3D headsets seem to be built a little better than the golds and have a bit better audio quality. It's not much, but it is noticeable if you know where to look. While the PlayStation 4's accessory lineup is pretty weak, and I even forgot to mention PlayStation Camera, there is one accessory I would recommend that you import no matter where you are in the world, and that was the official charging station for the DualShock 4 controllers. For whatever reason, Sony was very stagnant about releasing first-party accessories throughout all of their respective territories, and it seems that Japan and Europe were the only two territories that got this official charging station. It's great because the DualShock 4 is known for not exactly having the longest battery life, and being able to just plop it down on a charging station without thinking twice is a massive convenience and will always keep your DualShock 4 charged and ready for gameplay. When it comes to the PlayStation 5, Sony's approach to accessories this time around seems to be dramatically different, as they launched a whole slew of them that are currently available for purchase for both PlayStation 5 systems. This time around, both systems come with their respective vertical stands that are also required if you plan on using them in the horizontal position, so a little note on that. In addition, you can purchase additional DualSense controllers, the DualSense charging station, a media remote, the official HD camera if you plan on streaming, and of course, like I mentioned, you can get the Pulse 3D headphones. Now, if there was one accessory here that I would recommend above all of the others, it's the exact same as the PlayStation 4, and that is the official DualSense charging station. While the battery life on DualSense controllers seems to be quite a bit better than the DualShocks, it still is nice to be able to just plop your controllers down onto a charging station, let them charge without constantly having to fumble around and find a USB-C cable to either plug into a box into the wall or to plug into the PlayStation 5 system. The media remote has its purposes as well, as if you plan on using your PlayStation 5 as a media hub, look into picking that up. If you plan on streaming, look into the HD camera, and that's pretty much it. I'm sure plenty of more accessories will be coming in the future, but as of right now, Sony seems to have all of their bases covered for their audience, which again wasn't something they really did with PlayStation 4. The final accessory I would like to talk to you about applies to both PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 users, and that is one that I've personally had a lot of fun with since it launched in 2016, and that of course is PlayStation VR. Playing PlayStation VR games on a base PS4 system is a very cheap and easy way to get into VR, but as I previously mentioned, the base PS4 is the weakest option to play PS4 games. And now that you basically have to double the amount of screens for one for each eye, it really takes a toll on the end user experience. And while playing games on a PS4 Pro is a better experience with higher frame rates, better visuals, enhanced graphics, again, the fact of the matter is as of right now, PlayStation 5 is backwards compatible with PS4 and of course PSVR titles, and many of those titles have been enhanced to take advantage of PlayStation 5's additional hardware, making the PlayStation 5 system the best place to play VR games if that's something you're into. So once again, make note of that tiny little fact. Features. When it comes to this particular category, the base PlayStation 4 system offers the least amount of features compared to all of the systems, but also sets the standard for what you can expect. So we're going to start with PlayStation 4 Pro. The PS4 Pro, while it doesn't have a 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray drive, still allows you as the end user to play games in dynamic 4K. You can stream media from supported apps like Netflix, Hulu, Vudu, and others, including YouTube, in 4K should you choose, and is the best PS4 system for playing PS4 games. PlayStation 5 takes these features that the PS4 and PS4 Pro offers and takes it one step further. The PlayStation 5 Digital Edition is purely a streaming and download-only device. If you plan on consuming all of your games and media through streaming or direct downloads to the hard drive, then you're going to be just fine right there. But know this, if you are a collector of either 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray discs, or you have a backlog of PlayStation 4 physical titles, then you may want to look into the PlayStation 5, the fully spec'd out unit with the disc drive. Both units stream games exactly the same way, have the potential to download games. It all comes down to how you choose to consume media, whether it be through direct downloads, discs, or any combination of the two. One particular feature, or lack thereof, that I'd like to mention to close off this segment is upgradability. PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 4 Pro both allow the end user to upgrade their internal storage by simply removing part of the shell and swapping out the 2.5-inch hard disk for any other sized hard disk or even an SSD. And the PlayStation 5 and PS5 Digital Edition both take a similar approach, but instead of using standard hard disks, they use PCIe NVMe drives. And while they are standard, the problem is Sony currently has the slot disabled via the system firmware. And they did this because there are currently no drives that meet the speed requirements that the PlayStation 5 needs to offer you its next generation experiences. And while Sony does have plans to enable the slot in the future, as of right now, there are no ways to move PlayStation 5 games to an external hard disk. But the caveat is you can move PlayStation 4 games onto an external hard disk plugged into the PlayStation 5. It is my recommendation that if you plan on downloading or even installing PlayStation 4 games, that you get an external hard disk to have that data on. That way you can preserve the internal built-in storage, that 825 gigabytes, with approximately 620 of it usable for your PlayStation 5 games, and those alone. Online and subscriptions. When it comes to playing video games on the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 systems, both of them require the end user to have a monthly, quarterly, or yearly subscription to PlayStation Plus. However, there are some benefits to owning PlayStation Plus, like access to 100 gigabytes of cloud storage for saved games, free shipping on direct purchases on hardware and software from PlayStation.com, granted access to Share Play for PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 users, as well as exclusive in-game content and discounts for digital purchases on PlayStation Store. Now, while some of those features are locked behind a paywall, many others are not, such as in-game party chat, online messaging systems, and access to multimedia applications. So keep those things in mind, regardless if you plan on purchasing a PlayStation 4 or a PlayStation 5 system. Games. Now, when it comes to these videos, and if you've seen any of my buyer's guides in the past, I always say this, and I'm going to say it here. Software moves hardware. You can have the greatest, most powerful hardware in the world, but if you don't have compelling software that justifies buying the hardware, no one's gonna buy the hardware. Fortunately, right out of the gate, the PlayStation 5 is backwards compatible with 99% of the thousands of PlayStation 4 titles that have been developed for that system since 2013. This also includes PlayStation VR titles, and with many of PlayStation 4 and PlayStation VR's titles being patched to take advantage of the PlayStation 5, it makes the PS5 the best place to play those particular titles. But we're not buying next generation systems just to play previous generation games. You probably want to know what exactly defines a next generation game that differentiates it from PS4 games. And the big selling point right now that Sony is pushing is ray tracing. Now, there are other features, but for those of you who may not know what ray tracing is, let me set up a little scenario for you. Have you ever played a video game and walked up to a mirror or a shiny surface like a glass window, or looked down at a lakefront or an ocean or even a puddle, and you've never seen your character's reflection or the world's reflection in the water? Well, ray tracing allows that to happen, allows reflections in light to bounce off of things, to behave the way it does in real life. And while this makes for a more subtle change, once you see it in action and you look at how previous generation games do it, it starts to become really noticeable. The difference in this generation is in the details. Some other features that some game developers are tapping into are much higher frame rates. Last generation games ran at 30 frames a second with an occasional 60 frames a second options. This generation, some game developers are making 60 frames a second the standard and pushing for frame rates as high as 120 frames a second. That's between 2 to 4 times the standard of the previous generation. What does that mean? Much smoother gameplay. And after seeing it, it's incredible to see game consoles hitting such high frame rates for a change. Another feature that PlayStation 5 is really pushing is its insanely fast load times. In the previous generation of game systems, and every single one before it since we moved to discs, game developers had to take advantage of how games played, meaning levels were kind of bottlenecked because levels need to load. And maybe developers had to create this long, narrow passageway to create the transition in between levels rather than having you as a player sit through a long loading screen. With the PS5's brand new SSD technology, games load like that. And while there is no quick resume feature, when you start from the main menu and you turn on your system for cold boot and you load into a game, you will immediately notice how fast games load compared to previous generations. The final feature that Sony is pushing, at least for PlayStation 5, is their Tempest 3D audio engine. Now, for many players, audio is not really one of the most important things, and personally I find that very unfortunate, as 3D audio, when properly utilized, along with ray tracing and other next generation features, really brings the whole experience home, because it can give you a better sense of where you are in 3 dimensions. If a bullet goes by your ear in a video game, instead of it just being in the ear cup on the right side, Sony and its developers can actually make it feel like it's whizzing maybe just past your ear, over the top of it, or underneath it, or right in front of you. It's incredible to see what developers can do with the Tempest 3D audio engine when it's properly utilized. And of course, you'll need a compatible headset in order to take advantage of it. So these are pretty much all of the features that you can expect from next generation systems, including PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 5 Digital Edition. So like I previously mentioned, this generation is not going to be as a dramatic jump like previous ones. The difference is in the details, but I think you'll be very happy to see what's in store for you as a next generation player. The verdict. So I've walked you through pretty much everything you need to know that differentiates each PlayStation system from the next. I've tried to give you as much information on accessories and what exactly constitutes next generation gaming, as well as the features that each of these systems pack. So the overarching question still remains: which particular PlayStation system is right for you? Well, let's start with the fully spec'd out PlayStation 5. If you have a PlayStation 4 catalog of games that you like to play on disc and you are a disc-based player still, then it's a no-brainer. The PlayStation 5 is the way to go. The reason is you can play 4K Ultra HD Blu-rays if you still collect movies on Blu-ray as well. You can have the option to download games, shows, and movies digitally too, should you choose, but you will always have the disc drive waiting if you need it. Next is PlayStation 5 Digital Edition. If you are strictly a streaming/downloading type of person, and that is how you consume all of your media, video games, TV shows, movies, music, etc., then the PlayStation 5 Digital Edition is the way to go. Only if you don't have a backlog of PS4 games on disc, because once again, Sony Interactive Entertainment currently offers no kind of trade-in or transfer program for you to get your games off of the disc and into the PlayStation 5 system as a direct download. Next is PlayStation 4 Pro. This one's a tough one to recommend because while it is the most powerful PlayStation 4 system at $399, you could either go get a digital edition PlayStation 5 or keep saving since you're basically almost there for a fully spec'd out PlayStation 5 system. I would only recommend PlayStation 4 Pro if you can get it either at a discounted or clearance price from an authorized seller, or secondhand for a massive discount from someone who can promise you that the thing works and that they've blown out the dust from the system. Finally, there is the base PlayStation 4, the unit that's been around for over 7 years. Whether you get the original or the Slim, at this rate, I would personally recommend you avoid both of them. At the $299 asking MSRP, that's $100 away from the PlayStation 5 Digital Edition and another $200 away from the fully spec'd out PlayStation 5. You're almost halfway there for a fully spec'd out PlayStation 5. And unless you get the base PS4 at a steep discount or at almost half the asking price of MSRP, I can't recommend that one either, as it's the weakest unit in the entire family. And while it still is a great place to play games, there's better places to play those same games on actual PlayStation hardware. So, with all of that being said, if you plan on purchasing a PlayStation system at any point in the year, whether it be a PS4, PS4 Pro, PS5 Digital, or a PlayStation 5, let me know down there in the comments section. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and enjoyed spending some time with me once again. As always, I would like to wish you a safe and happy day. And as always, I will see you in the next video. But until then,